According to our industry expert today, your brand is the way that you give people a reason to choose you. Therefore, if you only have surface level marketing, your members won't stay. I'd say that's a pretty powerful statement. Actually, this episode is filled with a lot of powerful information that your business needs to hear. Stay with us for another educational episode from the Fitness Business Podcast. Looking for an episode that your whole staff can learn from? Episode 369, Legacy, What the Fitness Industry Can Learn from the All Blacks, is the perfect episode. Author of Legacy, James Kerr, shares the leadership lessons he learned from the winningest international rugby sport team in the world, the All Blacks. I promise you it won't disappoint, so check it out. Hey, it's Dory Nugent. Yes, I know, no relation to Ted. I'm sorry to disappoint. Today, Lisa Higgis, brand strategist and founder of Realize Your Brand, will make you stop in your tracks with her amazing content for building a powerful brand. Listen to Lisa. I'm telling you, she knows her stuff. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, she is on the Fitness Business Podcast. I know you're sitting on the edge of your seats, but give me less than 2 minutes because we need to hear from our amazing sponsor, MyZone. MyZone has pioneered unique wearables with talking point technology that makes the difference. Reach more members of your community and keep them engaged for longer through motivation and gamification wherever they choose to work out. In the gym, at home, or outdoors, we're stronger together. Get in the zone at myzone.org. Thank you, MyZone, and congratulations on winning App of the Year at the Fit Summit 2022 Awards of Excellence. That is awesome.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
Lisa, I would love for you to give us your top 3 tips to developing a standout fitness brand.
Yes. Okay. So tip number 1 is to get opinionated. You need to take a look at your industry and think about what you see that's wrong, what you see that needs to change, and what people are not getting right. And you need to get clear on your point of view and take a stand for what is going to make a bigger difference for your clients. The second tip is then to take that point of view and actually put it into your offerings. Go beyond the default of the way everybody else is putting their offerings together and create incomparable offerings that are based on your unique point of view and that create results that people will want to talk about. And then the third tip is to take a stand for those offerings. And so really stand in your value. Understand that it is service when you want to take a stand for offerings that create real results for people, and do not sell out by selling smaller things that leave people feeling lukewarm and getting mediocre, small little changes in their life that they will not go out and talk about.
Next week, I bring you the founder of the annual Fitposium Conference. And did you know our guest is also an internationally published photographer with over 600 magazine covers to his credit? Can you guess what he's going to talk about? His topic title, 4 Steps to Getting Published and Featured in Media. After this week's interview with Lisa, I'll introduce you to James Patrick during our Quick Fire 5 segment.
Health club leaders, you work hard to ensure your members have the very best fitness experience, right? You need personal trainers who do the same. Become a preferred partner with ISSA, and we'll deliver the best trainers in the industry to your club in a matter of days, fully certified and ready to work. And we'll help you keep those trainers by offering them exclusive discounted pricing on ISSA certifications. Because when your trainers stay, so do your valued members. Becoming a preferred partner with ISSA is absolutely free. Click above or visit issaonline.com/fitbiz to get trainers now.
Let's transition into this week's interview with Lisa Higgis. Welcome back for another episode of the Fitness Business Podcast. I know you guys are super excited about my guest today because we love talking about branding, of course. It's a big part of everybody's business. And today we have industry expert Lisa Higgis with us today. She is the founder of Realize Your Brand. She also is a business expert. She's a brand strategist. We're just so excited, Lisa, to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait for this.
Good. So I'd love for you just to take maybe 20, 30 seconds and tell everybody out there listening today about Realize Your Brand.
Yeah. So Realize Your Brand is my consultancy agency. And what we do is we work one-on-one with clients who are at a stage where they're ready to level up. We help them get clear on their positioning, their messaging, what it is they want to be known for, and create a brand presence across all the different touch points, from web copy to email sequences to their offerings, that really carve out a place in the world for them to do the work that they are meant to do.
You're going to teach them a lot. I said it last week that even if you think your brand's on point, you're going to walk away with at least one good piece of information today. So let's start right off the bat with you telling everybody out there what your definition of brand is.
Yes. Brand is a very big idea. And so there's lots of pieces within it. But what I'd like to really, suggest is that your brand is how you give people a reason to choose you. And so it's how people talk about you when they're referring you to somebody else. Like, what is the reason they give for why you are worth talking about or checking out? And so that's the big concept. And it comes from a place of strategy. And I want to make that clear, like right off the bat, because I know that a lot of people think that it's the visuals and, the website and things like that. So my definition of brand is that it starts with the strategy. It starts with those core decisions about who you are. And then it comes to life through things like your website and your visuals.
All right. So moving on to our first question today is, why is building an interesting brand such an important first step before you can even begin marketing?
Yes. Well, because you put so much work into getting in front of people. And it's harder and harder with the noise that you're trying to break through, that when you do finally connect with a potential client and they decide to sign up for your list or, buy one of your products, it is so critical that you actually change their life in the process of interacting with you and experiencing what it is you have to offer. And so if you just have that surface level, flashy marketing, stuff, you might get people in the door, but they won't stay and they won't leave and talk about you. And so you're wasting your marketing dollars if you haven't already built a brand, offerings, and a business that kind of live up to the hype, that are not just all words out there in the world, but you're really making a difference and doing something worth talking about.
Yeah, I like what you said about just trying to break through all the noise. I feel like that it just seems like it is getting harder and harder to build a brand that stands out. Would you agree or disagree with that?
No, it's absolutely harder. Absolutely.
And why do you think that is? Is it just because there's more entrepreneurs in the market?
But it's not only that. It's because people are oversaturated. And so it's not even just that there's more people trying to get attention. It's that people are being a lot more discerning about the attention they give, and they're shutting things off, and they're not wanting to get lost in, the sea of information. And so both of those things are happening at once, which means that when you do connect with people, you need to really respect their time and attention. Otherwise, they will never give you their attention again.
That makes complete sense. I follow along. I see it myself just with, perusing all the different social media outlets and everybody trying to grab your attention and make themselves noticed. Why do you believe, Lisa, that it's a person's point of view and not their personality that sets a company apart?
Yes, I've alluded to this a little bit. A lot of branding advice, and even myself, when I first started off in the field of marketing, like I thought that your brand was your personality and that you needed to kind of hone in on what was unique about you. Are you really outgoing? Are you funny? Are you, powerful? And that you amplify that. And that's how you draw people in and get attention. And that's a lot of what you see out there in branding advice. But the truth is that if you go back to my definition of branding and you think, okay, well, what are people actually sharing when they say, hey, I love this author, he has this crazy idea that I just love, which is this. Or, I went to this new gym and they did something I hadn't ever thought of or seen before. Nobody's saying, hey, don't you love the yellow on that logo? Nobody's saying, that it's about the fact that this brand swears or this brand is, funny, unless that's just a compliment to how they were feeling that was different in that industry. And so your unique point of view, which is how you see things differently, is going to be the catalyst for you as a business owner to doing things differently, saying things differently, kind of departing from the norm in the industry. And that's what's going to make people talk about you. And if you think of what makes you talk about another brand, you will see that that's true.
Moving on to our next question, why do you believe great branding isn't about gimmicks or catchphrases or even the logo, like you mentioned earlier, but having the courage to just strip away your defenses so you can be honest with yourself and, more importantly, honest with the audience?
Yeah. So there's not a single client that I've worked with who hasn't come to this work with the acknowledgement that they've been hiding. When we start a business, we're putting ourselves out there, and we know that people will connect with us if we are raw and honest and bold and true to who we are. But that's not our conditioning as humans. We like to stay in our safe zone. And so a lot of what people create when they create their brand is kind of like buffer. They're putting stuff out there that if people reject it, they won't actually be personally hurt because it wasn't really them. And we do this subconsciously as we're creating our brand. But what I've seen is branding isn't really a process of creating from scratch. It's finding you as a business owner and seeing all of these ways that you have kind of diluted your message or added a whole bunch of padding to it. And it's all kind of unconsciously with this intention of keeping you safe, because if they're criticizing stuff that's not you, then they're not criticizing you and you can't fail. And so that's my experience, is seeing that it's a journey of getting bolder and bolder and bolder and more honest about who you are. And that sometimes that even takes an external person to help you see the ways that you're not even seeing yourself accurately.
So Lisa, with your experience, I'd love for you to give us maybe an example or two examples, exactly what you just talked about.
So one example I love is a client of mine who's a designer. And when I started working with her, she really thought she had to set herself apart, either based on price or on being the most reliable, because she really couldn't see her own genius. She couldn't see what she had to offer. And so those were her messages, like lower on price, most reliable. And like, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you can kind of start to imagine what kind of clients you would be attracting if that was how you were positioning yourself. And so when I worked with her, like I helped really pull out and help her see that she is an incredibly original thinker. And we shifted her positioning around original design, which she didn't think she had the right to claim because she wasn't seeing herself accurately. And so I love that example because you can see how it would change the course of her entire business. And so Yeah, I feel like that's one of my favorite examples. And you can see that fear is the underlying thing there, because we don't want to claim that we are something and have it challenged. And she didn't want to claim that she was creative and an original designer and have that challenged. So instead, she was claiming things that really meant nothing to her.
You've given such great advice today, Lisa. And just one more piece of advice I'd love for you to share. And that is, how can an entrepreneur, a business owner, somebody that's out on their own trying to make it, how can they discover that they are going in the right direction with their branding? And maybe they think they are, but they're really not. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I love this question because I know that it can feel really stressful. And there's a couple things I'll offer. So first is, your brand is a living, breathing, ever evolving thing. And so you're never going to get it all wrong. There are parts you'll get right. There are parts that could be improved upon. And I just want to put that out there because, it can feel like you have to get it all right and you need to be perfect with it. And I want to definitely say that that is not true. If you want to get to the heart of who you are as a business so that you can put it out in the world as a brand, then you're going to be your first authority on that. And so you might be great at doing that self-reflection and pulling it out. If you're not, and you feel that you need to turn to somebody else to kind of help you see those things, then obviously a brand strategist is going to be amazing because they're both going to be objective and really skilled at pulling those things out and turning them into amazing messaging and branding. But what I want to say is, be careful if you are going to friends and family, because the opinions of people who are not your ideal clients can be very unhelpful and misleading for you as you're trying to land who you are and the messaging that's going to resonate. So I would definitely steer clear of friends and family in terms of, what do you think? Is this good? What do you like? And either stick with a professional or do it yourself, and maybe with colleagues in your field who understand who your client is and who you are. Those would probably be your best bets to just kind of get that foundation started.
That is some really, really good advice.
Thank you.
Really good advice. I probably, if it was me, I would think that I had the best friend in the world and, would only ask people that I would want to say the same thing back to me, right? We're always looking for people to agree with us. So great advice. And now finally, I'm going to ask you, it's always one of my favorite questions. And that is just, our experts come on and they tell us everything to do right. But I always like to know, hey, what do we do if we make a mistake? Or how do we know if we're making a mistake? Or what mistakes maybe have you made? So my question for you is, what are some of the worst branding mistakes you've seen fitness business owners make?
Yeah, well, okay. So for fitness business owners specifically, there are two things that I would really point out. One is what I call defaulting. And so that's when you look around your industry and you see the way that it's done by everybody else, and you assume that that's the way to succeed, so you do it too. And I call it defaulting because you're not even challenging those decisions. You just feel like you're following the model, following the mold, and then you end up in a sea of sameness. Everybody's doing everything the same. So that's number one, is really question everything instead. What could you be doing that is totally weird and not and unseen in your industry? What could that look like? And then the second, and this one is really kind of comes down to confusing your potential clients or customers, is focusing so much on the tools and the how. So when I work with people kind of in healing industries, or people who have a lot of certifications, modalities, they've been trained in all kinds of things, I go to their website and I see all of those things that they've been trained in. And I, as the customer, am expected to know whether I need, this or that, or this kind of Reiki, or do I need, and the truth is, that is going to overwhelm people, or they're going to pick something really small off your list and say, I'll take this. Whereas if you instead focused on the outcome, the thing that people truly want, and you put all those tools together into a beautiful program that sells that outcome, you're going to be able to put it at a much higher premium in terms of investment. And people are going to have a much easier time saying yes, because they're there for the outcome. They're not there for the tools.
Thank you, FVP family, for joining me today. And thank you, Lisa Higgis from Realize Your Brand, for hanging out and sharing your knowledge with all of us. Questions for Lisa? Look no further than our show notes for Lisa's contact information so you can get to her directly. Head on over to www.fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Oh, and while you're there, subscribe to the show notes so you can cross that off your to-do list. Coming up next is James Patrick and the Quickfire 5.
G'day, it's JT here, and I was talking to Blair McCaney, the CEO of one of our sponsors, MX Metrics, the other day, and I gave him a hard time about his company's tagline, defeating mediocrity. By definition, that means he's excluding the majority of the market, but Blair just wouldn't budge. He only wants to work with operators who want to punch mediocrity in the face, really smash it. So I've talked to a few of his customers, like Joe Shirelli from Gainesville Health and Fitness, and yeah, it's for real. While Joe is a nice guy, he isn't satisfied with mediocrity either. He's crushing it as well. So I'm still dubious about selling only to operators who want to defeat mediocrity, but if this resonates with you, I reckon you should check him out. Go to mxmetrics.com. But remember, only if you're interested in smashing mediocrity.
Quickfire 5, sponsored by Hapana.
So what does the founder of the Fitposium Conference and the author of Fit Business Guide have left on his bucket list? Take a listen and find out. James Patrick is our Quickfire 5 guest today. James, welcome to the Fitness Business Podcast.
Dory, thanks so much for having me.
Glad that you're here. Super excited to ask you 4 fun questions, and then you'll get a chance to pitch your show. So let's get started with our fun questions. The first one is, I'd love to know, what is one thing that's on your bucket list?
I actually have this immutable goal in life to have my own library within my house. So a room completely to myself, filled with shelves of books that I'll never have enough time to read, but I'm aspiring to crack open each one of them.
Great. I love that goal. Very unique. Next question. Whose business brain would you love to pick?
You know, I'm going to sidestep on that one because the person whose brain I'd like to pick, unfortunately, no longer with us, would be Dr. Hunter S. Thompson. And the reason I'd say that is having a background in journalism, to have someone who was so skilled and adept at telling stories in a way that had never been told before and really hasn't been told since. I would love to understand his methodology and writing process.
Fantastic. And number 3, what is the most visited page on your website?
Probably my podcast page. So on the James Patrick website, jamespatrick.com, there's our podcast page, which probably gets the most traffic.
Great. FBP family, make sure you check out his webpage. All right. It's time for you, Mr. Future Librarian, to give us a book recommendation.
Well, I can't just do one, obviously. So I have to do 2. So the first would be A Whole New Mind by Daniel H. Pink, one of the best writers and creative minds when it comes to looking at business from a psychology perspective. And the second would be All Marketers Tell Stories by Seth Godin, and really focusing in on, it's not the advertising, it's the story, it's the narrative, it's the compelling story that is going to capture that audience's attention, and how we as marketers can start to cultivate and create our own stories.
Well, thank you for the book recommendations. And FBP family, make sure you check out our show notes. So we have links that will directly take you right to the 2 books that James recommended. Now, finally, this is your big moment, James. We want you to give us one moment for next week's episode.
You can't grow your business unless people know you exist. And it's become so hard to stand out in a very crowded marketplace. So earned media and getting published is one of the fastest, most effective ways that you can amplify your authority and actually generate leads for your business.
FBP family, next week, come on back with James Patrick. He's a photographer and a marketing strategist, and he's going to talk about 4 steps to getting published and featured in media. FBP family, let's make a date for next week so we can be back together again and learn about the 4 steps to getting published and featured in media. Subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player, or even better yet, let us do the work for you and we'll send you the show. Subscribe at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Hey, I have a few thank yous that I'd like to shout out here. First, I'd like to say thank you to our founding partner, Active Management. Our partners, Keep Me, MyZone, Discover Strength, ISSA, and Hapana, and our advertisers, Rex Roundtables, MX Metrics, and Vaporfresh. We believe what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but woven into the lives of others.